This is Batgirl, and you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
You've just jumped inside the pull bag. Join TFG1 Mike and the rest of the comic reading crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, IDW, Boom Studios, Zenoscope, and more, we have everything you want to read right here. Transformers comics? Yeah, we cover that. He-Man? Yeah, sure. DC superheroes like Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Batman Beyond? Yep, we have those too. How about TMNT from IDW and I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics? Yeah, we have all that here. Plus, so much more. It's all inside the pull bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So without any further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we are reading right now here inside the pull bag.
Welcome to Gotham.
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 353, continuing on with Batman Month. I am, of course, TFG and Mike. Joining me is Ryan, the UnEvenFlow Merkley. Hello, sir.
Is this Yvonne Craig's Batgirl? I don't think so.
Are you really going to jump on that bandwagon? That's going to be a whole other discussion for a whole other day. God.
What? I was referencing the Adam West, but anyway.
Yeah, I know. Well, you haven't probably seen this, but on Facebook, because I
yes, well, I mean, I'm well aware of what you're bringing up. So
I don't care about whatever the plot of it is going to be. That's fine, but I am one of the few people, maybe there's more than a few, I don't know, that just reacted negatively to Mr. Twilight being the new Batman. And honestly,
I thought you were going to reference the odd negative reviews of CW's new series.
Okay, there's that too.
I thought we were going somewhere else here.
There's that too, but that CW stuff actually started on the Pattinson Batgirl thing. So my buddy Doug Abel, who runs Talking About My Generation podcast, he basically said, if I can't accept Robert Pattinson as Batman, then the only Batman that should have ever existed is Adam West, because that was the original television character, yada, 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 yada.
My thing is, so comic book casting has been really good. Like, you look at Marvel, and there's so many people that I either never heard of or couldn't picture in the role that have turned out perfectly. And another example of is another Batman. I'm going to be honest with you. I could care less about the Vulture as a character. I've never been interested, never enjoyed it, whatever. Yeah. And Michael Keaton freaking knocked it out of the park in Homecoming. Yep. I absolutely loved him in that.
Yeah,
he
was
did
awesome
such a good job. And there's so many other examples. The one people bring up is Heath Ledger as the Joker. The negative reaction to that originally, et cetera.
See, I didn't have a negative reaction to Ledger. Yeah. I didn't have a negative reaction to Ledger because my first thought was, ooh, Patrick Verona from 10 Things I Hate About You as a villain. That's kind of cool. Or the guy, he played Von Lichtenstein in A Night's... Like, I had already followed Heath Ledger's career somewhat by the time I was like, ooh, that actually kind of works with him being the Joker.
He's just a good actor.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
I mean, for Pattinson, Twilight was over a decade ago. How the hell old is that now? It's been a long time,
It's been a long time. And look, here's the thing.
He's not the same dude.
No, and I understand that. He is an actor. He is someone who gets put into roles or get casts in certain roles, and he does whatever job he has to do. The problem is with myself and everybody else that continually makes the Twilight jokes is, look, I even looked at the guy's filmography. Twilight is the only thing I can actively say I've seen advertisements with him in it on the big screen. I've never actually watched the Twilight movies. I have zero interest. I don't care if they're good. I don't care if they're bad. I don't care if they're teenage whinery bullshit. I don't care. The point is, for the last 10 years or more, however long, whatever it is, all as I've associated him with is those films, because that's all I've ever really seen him advertised in.
Yeah, but I think you could make the same point for a lot of others. Did anyone know who the hell Chris Hemsworth was before a bit part relatively in Star Trek 2009?
Yeah, no.
And then Thor, yeah. So,
not really.
Even Chris Evans, his big role, quote unquote, was
Johnny Storm.
Torch, in 2 not very good Fantastic Four movies.
I love those Fantastic Four movies.
Anyway, although to be fair, he was good in them.
He was good in them. Him, I know this is way off topic, but I need some off topic crap because I'm 2 weeks out of brain surgery, 2 weeks and a day out of brain surgery. Just got the stitches out. Well, as of this recording, it's 2 days ago or 1 day ago, whatever. Anyway, point is, Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis made those films for me. I mean, Vic Mackey as the Thing. Come on.
He was good too. And then anyway.
All right.
Hey, speaking of people who are being played by other people.
Spoilers.
So, Batgirl 2009. This is the Stephanie Brown Batgirl. It is written by Brian Q. Miller. Artists are as follows: Lee Garbett, Trevor Scott, Sandra Hope, Perry Perez, Jonathan Glapion, Tim Levins, Dan Davis, Aaron Sode, Oliver Nome, and a bunch of other people. There's 6 other names on here.
God, I'm glad I let you do the
Guy Major
people.
Yes, I know, right? Guy Major is the colorist.
The first time it occurred to me that I'm just not cut out for it is when we talking about Livio Reminelli and the IDW.
Livio Reminelli, yes.
Yeah, whatever it is. Ravioli.
It's not. It's not Livio Ravioli.
You were so much better than my shitty pronunciations. Anyway.
I screw names up too at times, so.
So, we haven't talked about this a whole lot, but you jumped on to, because you are always interested in number ones and seeing stuff from the beginning, you sort of jumped into DC more after New 52.
Once the New 52 began, yeah.
This is set before New 52. This was set actually just really in the wake of Final Crisis.
Right.
And the Stephanie Brown character has reappeared, but she was one of the reasons I didn't jump into the New 52. There were a couple others. Actually, most of the reasons are featured in these issues. So this is post-Final Crisis, meaning Bruce Wayne is dead, quote unquote.
Right.
He didn't quite die, but anyway, spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where it took me a while. I didn't really realize until, because I think it was you, I'm pretty sure it was you, that said something about Dick Grayson as Batman.
Yep.
And I am a huge Dick Grayson, Robin, Nightwing. So
that was the other reason I didn't jump on to New 52. I enjoyed that, and I thought there was a ton of different ways and distance they could have gone on with it, but it got ended prematurely for the reboot of the universe. But I enjoyed that. I liked the idea of seeing not only how different Batman would be as a character, because Batman really is a title. It's not necessarily a man.
Yeah.
It's become a man since then. But, for example, Robin is definitely a title.
Yeah.
Many different people have been Robin, including Stephanie Brown.
Yeah.
And, Batman to me was it was more of a title than the man. And it was interesting to see not only how different he is, but it would have been nice to have seen more of how his relationship with not just his allies, but his villains is. How different would the Joker and some of these other characters be when it's no longer the same guy under the hood? And they played with it a little bit. They have an arc where Two-Face pretty rapidly figured out that, hey, it's not the same guy under the cowl.
Yeah.
And I like that. I wish it had more time to breathe and go on.
Yeah,
but
I think the thing with other people being Batman other than Bruce in this timeline, or even in the New 52 timeline, or any other time. Like, outside of Terry McGinnis, like, if you put Dick Grayson in the suit, if you put even Commissioner Gordon in the suit, I think what I love is, we did this episode a while ago. Steve and I did Kyle Higgins and Scott Snyder's Gates of Gotham, where, again, another Dick Grayson. It was our first Dick Grayson is Batman story. At least the first that I read. And in that, Batman has a scene with Commissioner Gordon. And he basically all but tells him that, hey, I'm not the same guy under here. Kind of a thing in that, I believe. Yeah. I'd have to go back and reread it and make sure I'm right. But I love scenes like that when we realize that, hey, this ain't Bruce Wayne.
And I like seeing the characters grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the logical conclusion that eventually Dick Grayson, who has been essentially groomed to eventually take over, should something happen to Bruce, it's a logical conclusion that at some point you get to see that. Now, it's fair. You could make the point that maybe he'd want to continue being Nightwing or something like that. But, you know, the point at this time was that Batman was also a symbol, and there always needs to be a Batman, says Amanda Waller. But in that same vein, so Stephanie Brown got killed off in, fairly infamously, might I add, way back in War Drums, which is part of the War Games series. She was not killed off well. It was not all that well done. And it left a lot of unanswered things with the character, and it left a lot of potential growth on the table. And at the time, she was Robin. And this story takes place as she takes over as Batgirl from Cassandra Cain, who has, in the wake of Bruce Wayne dying, who's decided to leave Gotham City and decides to give the mantle of Batgirl to Stephanie Brown, who was previously Spoiler before she became Robin. Then as Robin, she dies. Well, actually, she gets kicked out. Then she becomes Spoiler again. Then dies. Then comes back as Spoiler for a bit and is now Batgirl. That's not confusing at all. Now I started to understand why you try to start at number ones.
Mm-hmm. You gotta start at the beginning
Anyway.
in order to get the whole story. I mean, like, yes, I brought you on for the Joker bit for Endgame last week and whatever, but I mean, whatever, it is what it is. And I get it. There are points like in Scott Snyder's New 52 run where you could start at Volume 8, which is the Commissioner Gordon run. Technically, that is a new starting point, considering it's not really Bruce Wayne as Batman. But Stephanie Brown Batgirl, I like this. I thought it was interesting. I'll say this now. I'm sure I'll say it again throughout the rest of the episode. Right now, in 2019, it has been 6 years since I read 12 issues of a comic in one go. The last time I did that was when we covered Welcome Back, Frank, way back in the very first Punisher month here in the Pull Bag. A classic
volume of the Punisher.
Absolutely. I did not realize when I originally bought the 2 traded collections of Stephanie Brown Batgirl that it was each one half of the series. So when I came to read it on the Sunday before this episode, or week before this episode goes live, I was like, oh, wait a minute, how long is it's the first half of the arc. Okay, well, we're obviously not going to record this on the Sunday before the Wednesday that it goes up, because I still have to sit here and read all of this. And it's not a bad read at all. I actually enjoy Brian Q. Miller's writing. This is the first time I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've read his stuff. I love the characters. What I enjoy most about this story is when Stephanie finally comes into her own, and she and Babs are working together, and Babs gives her a better suit than her Spidey suit that she has in the beginning of this.
Yeah, I thought so. One of the things I thought was interesting and I liked is, for obvious reasons, and I mean, she's done this with other characters before, but Oracle, aka Barbara Gordon, she's she is almost the main antagonist early on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could make a point just because she's not happy. There's somebody new in the suit. She doesn't really approve of Stephanie. It took Barbara a while to approve of Cassandra.
Mm-hmm.
And this is if you're a fan of Oracle and a fan of Barbara Gordon, this is somewhat sort of required reading as well, because there's a lot of focus on her and her feelings. But even as Stephanie is fighting some of Gotham's finest villains,
Scarecrow.
Yeah, Scarecrow, daughter of Calculator,
Yep.
is in this too, although not in the same role, but she joins the team. But still, there's a good number of different characters who are seen and from different books. But even then, with all of that, Stephanie kind of has to fight Oracle at the same time, at least for the first little while.
Yeah, for the first little while. And again, it's a good tension thing, you know, them trying to feel each other out, Stephanie trying to fit herself into the role, you know, trying to make it her own, because not every Batgirl is the same character.
No, and the other thing I like, too, was her interactions. So I like a lot of the interactions and seeing how she fits in with the different members of the team. I should mention this since you may not be aware, but originally in the comics, she had dated Tim Drake. And so we get to see Red Robin and her. Mm-hmm. We get to see some of my favorite stuff, which is Damian's reaction to her. Because Damian, at this point, was a lot more interesting to me than he had been. Because he's under the tutelage of Dick Grayson, who is not his dad.
Right.
And very much teaches and behaves differently to him than his dad did, for certain. And it's just fun seeing his reactions to kind of everything and everyone around him, at the same time as there's at least a part of him that's kind of grieving because his dad's gone.
Yeah. I understand that Damian is grieving partially in this, but until one of the writers, and I need to bring this up as well. Several people have said online recently about giving writers suggestions for stories and how you're not technically supposed to do that, even though as much as you want to see a Phineas and Ferb and Doctor Who crossover or whatever, or a Calendar Man and a Condiment King team up, whatever.
Or see the end of Game of Thrones rewritten.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's, you know, it's just not ever going to happen, and most writers and most creators don't particularly like being, you know, unsolicited.
The main reason is because they cannot use any portion of what you tell them ever.
Exactly, yes.
It has happened in the past, famously, where somebody pitched an idea that was similar enough. The writer forgot about it and used just a fairly insignificant portion. It just had a very small amount of similarity, but it was enough that the said writer was taken to court, and that's
it's crazy
when writers learned that. Yeah, and it's a problem on social media. I follow a good number of writers. The one that gets it the most, I swear, is poor Joe Michael Straczynski, who's done a number of different comics and Babylon 5 and other
He-Man and other animation things. Absolutely.
Sense8, actually 4 that we mentioned earlier. Anyway, he's done a number of different things. And anyway, yeah, he gets them all the time, and it drives him nuts. And I don't blame him because
so
just everybody for some reason. Anyway.
Yeah. So my thing with Damian is I don't think I'll ever like him, just in general, until they make some sort of futuristic storyline with him, or some sort of alternate storyline with him, kind of like how Nightwing: The New Order was an alternate storyline for Grayson as Nightwing. It was an original story by Kyle Higgins and everything else, and whole different aspects, and what, like, even now reading Damian before New 52, but specifically Damian in the New 52, I could not stand that kid.
I'm less of a fan of him in New 52. I liked him more beforehand, mostly because, like I was sort of mentioning before, he kind of had to grow up a little bit more and a little more quickly because of what happened to Bruce. And I also enjoyed it because he had a more varied cast of people to interact with. So one of the things I like about this book, period, and I liked about Stephanie Brown, is she's not the typical Bat family character. She's a lot less grim. She makes quips while she's fighting. She's a bit like Terry or Spider-Man in personality. Like, she's generally seems to be having fun as the character. And admittedly, so one of the things that's turned me off a little bit with a lot of the DC stuff lately is how incredibly dark or grim or unhappy everybody kind of has to be. Although it was Marvel who once popularized the comment that, you know, you can't have your characters be happy. Which, no, actually you can. It's nice once in a while. They don't always have to be miserable. And that's another thing I liked about this, is particularly once she gets to work together, and once she's got the approval of, at the very least, Oracle, Stephanie seems to have fun. And she can still be serious. So on the art side of thing, too, I wanted to point out, because you used it as a thumbnail on, I want to say, Facebook, you used the shot of Stephanie and Scarecrow, which I thought was really good artwork. I really like that.
I love it. It's amazing.
But also, I mean, she could be serious, you know, when she needed to. I genuinely like this book, and it's a lot more fun. I'm not trying to say anything negative, because I've reviewed all the Batman books we've done lately extremely positively, but it's nice to have a fun Batman book.
Yeah, it is a very fun Batman book. It is a Batman book that has Batman in it, but the main focus is Stephanie Brown as Batgirl coming into the role. It's her, as you said, interacting with all of the other Bat family members, with Robin, Damian Wayne, or Damian whatever his name's supposed to be. You know, Red Robin, Tim Drake, they actually call him Tim Wayne in this.
She's got her own Commissioner Gordon, essentially, and Nick Gage.
Exactly. You know, she's got that. She's got Oracle. And I've always been a Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon kind of fan. And I love that Brian Q. Miller takes time to... There's an exchange that I'm on right now with the two of them where he gets knocked out of the sky or something or other, or the signal goes dark. She's like, Batman, incoming bogey. Thought it looked familiar. You know, it's just that Babs and Dick kind of, you know, back and forth. And this is why I'm really digging Grayson as Batman.
Yeah, and it was fun to see. It's also fun for me, at least, to see Barbara to take more of a mentor role as well.
Yep.
Something that she's had other Batgirls and other parts of the Bat family that she's helped, but this is one that there's no Bruce helping with or teaching in addition, really.
Yeah, no. This is basically Barbara doing the teaching thing the way that she wants to do it, and it works. They are a team. You know, we talked earlier about how Scarecrow's in this. You know, Roulette is in this. Roxy Rocket is in this.
Clayface.
Clayface is in this. Livewire is in this. Just absolutely villains that you don't normally see in, okay, maybe Scarecrow, maybe Clayface, but, you know, in most Bat books.
Yeah.
In most,
Clayface isn't super heavily used, but yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, Roxy Rocket and Livewire are technically Superman villains. Technically. But again, you know, seeing Stephanie team up with Tim, seeing her team up with Batman and Robin, the art in this is all amazing. Once she gets her own suit that isn't the Cassandra Cain suit, absolutely love it. I love the design on all of them. There's a page where Batman, Robin, and Batgirl are facing off with Roulette. Batman is in the shadows, and the other two are in the foreground. Oh, I love that page. That page is amazing. And again, it's a story about a girl coming into her own as a superhero. And it progresses nicely throughout all 12 of these issues. It tells stories, as I already said, about her past, like dating Tim Drake, Red Robin. It has her dealing with her mom and all that and everything else. There's just so much here in these 12.
I also think as a fan of Batman Beyond, I enjoyed the fact that honestly the Barbara Stephanie relationship reminds me a lot of Terry and Bruce.
Yeah.
Just you've got one person who just can't do it because of something that happened to them and physically is generally unable to, trying to mentor somebody who's trying to grow into an extremely difficult role that they already went through. So
yeah,
I got a lot of those vibes too, which is definitely not a negative either.
Yeah, because again, like we said, this is at a time when Babs is being Oracle. This is a time after the Joker shot her and paralyzed her and all of that. We have... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I just like that everybody who has a guest star too... I just like all the guest stars. It's nice to see Tim Drake, who had, at this point, been... I don't want to say upgraded, graduated, I guess, to Red Robin. Mm-hmm. You have, Dick Grayson, who's graduated to Batman. You have, and not only that, but gets to lead or be a big part of the JLA. And you have, to a lesser extent, you have Damian kind of graduating into the Robin role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. This book was, even though it was a long read, it was super fun. I absolutely love it. I love the, it's part of, what is it? It's close to the end of it. It's part of the final arc, The Flood, where in the opening bits of part 3, it's like, Babs and Dick are, like, she has the use of her legs again, and they're doing this whole dream sequence thing. I love that they did that. They kind of reimagined the whole, hey, I'm going to shoot you now kind of a thing. But they give her this amazing life with Dick and Damian and Tim and Commissioner Gordon, her father and all that. And it was a nice little start to that part of the arc. You even have Selina in here as well. And very, very cool. I'm very glad I did end up reading this. I'm glad we're covering it on the show. Like I said in the beginning of the show, I wanted to cover this before. I just didn't have the time or the whatever. Wasn't going to spend X number of dollars on all 24 issues. But now that I have both of the trades on Comixology, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this is some of my favorite non-Gail Simone Batgirl stuff. It's just fun. It reminds me how much I missed kind of that era of DC Comics just before Flashpoint and everything that happened. It's I don't know what to say. Yeah, I'm not trying to knock Barbara Gordon, who for a lot of people, myself included, I grew up with her as Batgirl. But it was just really fun to see somebody else in the role. And Batgirl, for a long time, had been changed to Oracle, and there was a ton of different stories about that, et cetera, et cetera. But it was nice to go back to that for a bit, at least, too. Like, I liked seeing Oracle again. It's been quite some time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very cool, fun story. It is its own thing. You don't need to have read 70 other issues beforehand. It's like we said earlier, beginning to end, it's its own thing. We may cover the other half of the arc later this year. I don't know. I don't know what the heck's going on for the rest of the year, so... what would you give Volume 1 for Stephanie Brown, 0 to 5?
Very solid 4. Yeah, no, I'll stick with 4.5 out of 5.
I'm right
it's
there
just
with
fun.
you.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
different than, it's not perfect. I think a lot of it peaks with the Barbara Stephanie stuff. Although having said that, it was nice to see, Dick initially kind of being a jerk. Dick was kind of a dick for a bit. Because one thing people forget, or one thing that people kind of have to know at this point, is he's feeling out the role as well. He's slowly figuring out he's not Bruce Wayne Batman. And again, somebody who absolutely adores Batman Beyond, same sort of thing. It's, we see Terry find his role, or find his voice in that series. And in this, we're seeing multiple characters try to find their own and try to find their place in a post Bruce Wayne world.
Absolutely. Yep, I'm right there with you. 4.5. There wasn't a single piece of art that I didn't love. The stories, you're right. It's all about finding yourself, whether it's Stephanie, whether it's Grayson, whether it's even Damien, Barbara. The villains, because they used such an eclectic it's not just Scarecrow, Catwoman, Joker, Penguin. It's not just the standard big bads that Batman always faces. It's putting villains in a story that basically challenges Stephanie as Batgirl. Not every Batgirl is going to go up against Livewire. And, they even make, the Bluebird reference to Supergirl. So that's kind of cool as well. So 4.5 from me as well. Absolutely dug it. I think it's great.
It's fun. If you're looking for something to to just entertain and to tell a story that's different featuring the Bat family, I thoroughly recommend it. It's not the same, and that's one of the reasons I really liked it. So,
absolutely. Coming up for the finale for Batman month this year, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know who's going to be on it. It might be Ryan and I. It might be Ryan, JT, and I. It might be... I don't know.
If the readers are really unlucky, I'll be around.
I'm not sure how I'm doing this. I honestly have no idea. I had this idea a while ago to do which I know how to do the technical aspect of being live, but next episode of 354, we're going to do our personal top 10 favorite Batman characters. The only caveat to this is that they generally have to start in the comics. Obviously, Harley Quinn started in animation and then made her way to comics. Same thing with Batman Beyond characters. They started in animation and made their way to comics. But generally, it's top 10 comic Batman characters. Like I said, originally I wanted to send this out to the listeners to be able to have them write in their own lists, and we would somehow compile that through some sort of mathematical genius thing. But I think at this point, whoever's on the next episode with me for hosting, we're just going to make up our own personal lists, and then we'll ask you, the audience, after the fact, if you want to send in your personal lists or comment on that episode. 354 when it does come out in a couple of weeks, kind of a thing. After that, June is kind of fully Starked. Well, it's got a Stark, it's got a Fairyland, it's got Turtles, and it's got Transformers. So 355 is JT and I are going to finish off Superior Iron Man with Volume 2 Stark Realities. JT and I are going to start Tony Stark Iron Man Volume 1 Self-Made Man. Comic Concierge / Movie Revolt, Dan and I are going to talk about I Hate Fairyland Volume 4, which I believe is the final volume from Scotty Young. Joe Reed and I may or may not get to TMNT Invasion of the Triceratons, which was issues 76 to 80 of the IDW series. And then probably Ryan's going to be back at the end of the month with the Transformers Bumblebee movie prequel.
Have you seen the movie yet?
Have I? No.
You should watch the movie at some point.
Yes, well, if I had more money, I could do that. So that's what's coming up in June. We've got 5 episodes for you guys in June. In July, It's going to be a bunch of cool stuff. Episode 360 of the Pull Bag is going to be us talking about the IDW 2020 thing that IDW did this year, celebrating their 20th anniversary. So it's 5 one-shot stories of the various things that, like Star Trek, Gem, Ghostbusters, My Little Pony, and TMNT. So that's going to be an interesting thing. Yeah, that's what's coming up here inside the Pull Bag. What do you got going on, Mr. Merkley?
Absolutely nothing.
Of course.
Angry tweeting as at Nightbeat.
Oh boy, there you go. I am at TFG1Mike on Twitter. You can also follow at the Pull Bag and at Geekcast Radio for all the other network updates. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time with our personal favorite top 10 Batman characters list next week here inside the Pull Bag.
The world does need a Batman, and it always will. The mantle of Batman is an honor.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepullbag and at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.
Risk of hell.